Hello, welcome to Lemon Studios, where we talk anything and everything entertainment. I'm, of course, Lemon himself, Zeke Lemon, and this is my review for Friday Night SmackDown. But before we get into that, let's get the house clean out of the way, shall we? I'm just leave a like, comment below, and know your thoughts on Friday Night SmackDown. And, of course, hit that subscribe button as it helps me grow into my YouTube career. I will greatly appreciate it. Now, all that out of the way, let's get into the review, shall we? So, the very first, well, not very first, but the return of 2 hours SmackDowns. A lot of people thought this was going to be the fix from the grace of God, that SmackDown is going to be better than it's ever been. While also shaping up Evolution even more, and of course Saturday night's main event, and then after that's full throttle into SummerSlam. And I will say this, I do think the 2 hours does help a lot. Y'all know me, I've been going back and forth with the whole 3 hours is very beneficial. No, it's not. It actually doesn't work. It is, I would say SmackDown was still very much run the same. It's just not everything was spread super thin. Like it normally is. Some segments, would go just way too long. Like, I can only imagine how long the Tiffany Stratton, Trish Stratus, and Jade Cargill segment would have gone if we were still 3 hours. Because it was even long with the with what we had during this show that was 2 hours. And again, I just honestly think, like, if this was still 3, we probably would have gone an extra 10 minutes within that, which probably could have been beneficial because, honestly, yes, Evolution feels like an afterthought. It really does. I hate this whole notion of our world champions are going to pick their opponents. It feels like NXT for JC Jane versus Jordan Grace was the only match that actually was put effort into build for this, while Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley, which was always the plan. I think we all knew, like, hey, this is the plan for Evolution. But, again, we just got official way too late down the road. I feel like there was a lot of things that we could have done if we were to do this whole choose your adventure type thing. That, again, we could have just done a lot better with it. Again, Evolution. And I will also say Saturday night's main event, to a degree, also feels a little bit like an afterthought as well. Some good matches. Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. That's going to be a lot of fun. That got confirmed for Saturday night's main event. I do think Jade Cargill versus Naomi at Evolution will probably be the best match of the night because, again, it has the best build. Assuming Monday we get the triple threat announced as well, those are going to be the two matches that I am most interested in. Io versus Rhea will be a lot of fun. It'd be interesting to see who comes out of it because, again, I don't think Rhea is a foregone conclusion to win the title. Tiffany versus Trish. Tiffany's going to win. Again, just feels like an afterthought. Then we go full throttle into Jade versus Tiffany. Yeah, it's just one of those things where, like, this show was very fine for what it was. I feel like a lot of the action was a lot more upbeat. Not a singles match on this match. They were all tag team and multi-mans. We had an 8-man tag and then, I believe, 4 tag team matches. Because we had the 8-man tag, we had the triple threat women's tag for the qualifier with Bliss and Charlotte taking the win on that. I think that's the right choice to do. It's a really interesting dilemma to be in with those women tag titles, because I do think Roxanne and Raquel need to hold on to those belts for a little bit longer because of the Liv storyline. But I also think Bliss and Charlotte, that really intrigues me for them to have those tag titles. And again, those tag titles need the star power. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes on in there. Kind of wish it was staying one-on-one. I don't think we need a Raw tag team, and I don't think we need the NXT tag team because, again, they're just there to make up the numbers at this point. Fun match between those triple threat, but I like I have one, so if I say Bliss's first name, I'm afraid I will trigger it. That's why I keep looking at it. But Bliss and Charlotte really do intrigue me within their story, and I just don't want it to be blown off after one, because I feel like if Charlotte doesn't win the gold on her first try, then she's not going to want to continue this alliance / friendship, whatever it is, between Bliss and her. So part of me is like, yeah, they do need to win the titles on round 1. I heard some people saying, no, they can lose, but another team gets pinned, and then we do the proper tag team match at SummerSlam where they get the titles. It's interesting. It's just really interesting to be in. But yeah, we had that one. Then we had the 8-man tag between the Wyatt Six and one person from each tag team. I kind of like that concept of it. Kind of like the ending as well. Very clever finishes throughout this whole week, throughout this SmackDown. Charlotte tapping Bliss on the head, and that considered as a tag. Bliss and her matches have been very creative ever since, the Queen of the Ring stuff. because, we had the triple threat match where, she hit Sister Abigail while Charlotte was in the figure eight. That was a creative finish. And then, when she faced Asuka, how she was like, oh, no, I know you're tricking me because we're tag teams. And then in this one as well, like, again, she's just really thinking outside the box. I know it's not fully her. It's also the producer. It's also the, everyone else coming up with their matches. But I'm sensing a pattern when it comes to Bliss, where her her finishes have just been very, very creative to me. But also with the 8-man tag as well, Johnny Gargano, DIY being the team going, we all need to come together to take on the Wyatt Six. And then when it time for him to get the tag, he says, no, I'm out of it. Then Chris Sabin gets destroyed by Eric Rowan. 1, 2, 3, and now we are doing the tag match again next week because, God forbid those WWE tag team titles get defended on a PLE. I think the last time was the Royal Rumble. But Jesus Christ, man, this tag division is amazing. It deserves to be on special television. Put it on Saturday night's main event. You still got 2 more spots left. What other 2 matches you going to put on it? Like, really? Well, what else? You got a Sami Zayn and CM Punk tag match coming? I don't know. I just don't know why we're doing it on SmackDown, especially now that we have the 2 hours. But yes, we also had that. Then we had Fraxium versus Andrade and Phoenix. It looks like that's going to be a proper tag team move forward because they got the win over Fraxium, which I do believe it is their first loss. Very fun match. I'm glad it still got the time that it would have gotten on a 3-hour show. So that was really cool to see because I really thought out of anything that might get cut, going back down to 2 hours, it would be this. And then, of course, we had the Bloodline, but no longer Bloodline tag team main event, which was fun. Jacob Fatu getting the pin on Solo Sikoa, and then we do, they jump Jacob and put him through the table as the credits roll over. Something that did get cut, though, was the women's U.S. title. Julia got a video package, which kind of worries me a little bit. I feel like she needs to actually be in her program. I feel like she could have came out, and someone just could have came up going like, all right, you and me at Evolution, or, I'm coming for that title, just to really, again, to add depth to that mid-card division. I don't know, maybe it is Bliss and Charlotte. Maybe they do lose round 1, and then we do Bliss versus Julia. I don't know. But it's really interesting to see. I heard Jordynne Grace may be coming up pretty soon, so maybe that's the program. But then again, who do you have win that? Because Jordynne Grace will be brand new to the main roster, while Julia is still relatively trying to establish herself quite a bit. I don't know. I'm just really worried about this women's U.S. title division. And I feel like on this episode in particular, you should have had both U.S. champions present in an action in some form because, well, for my American audience, it was the 4th of July episode. I feel like she should have been in it. But yeah, again, overall, this episode of SmackDown, it was fine. It was what it was. I feel like it peaked at the beginning with Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Drew McIntyre. Because, Cody, I finally get to go face John Cena one-on-one. That is official now. The graphics are up and everything. I do miss SummerSlam being a little bit more colorful. It is what it is. It doesn't make or break the show by any means, but I do miss that green, that blue, and, it just really makes it a little pop a little bit more. Kind of wish the graphic was background was a cookout or something, you know what I mean? But yeah, we'll get into John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. Every time they said Cena, someone else came out. Randy Orton came out saying, you better kick John Cena's ass. Drew McIntyre coming out going I hate all this loving. The Alpha's back home. He gets RKO. They're having their match at Saturday night's main event. Alistair and Damian segment was fine as well. Really nothing to run home about, but maybe that's the program at Saturday night's main event because we're doing Truth versus Alistair next week. And then maybe Damian comes out to make the save after Alistair destroys Truth and doesn't stop. And then maybe we do that quick program at Saturday night's main event. That could be a lot of fun. But yeah, again, overall, this episode of SmackDown was fine. It did feel a little bit tighter. It went by a lot quicker. It was nice. Once I got to 8:30, I was like, okay, we're almost done. Because sometimes with that third hour, man, it was just as soon as you hit 9 o'clock, you go, okay, we have 1 more hour to get through everything. But we didn't have that this time. So far, yes, beneficial to 2 hours. It was a pre-taped show. Next week, we'll really get to see how fluent it really is now that it will be back to live. But yeah, no complaints here on this one for the most part, besides this just terrible and really, really just abrupt build to Evolution, where again, there is a lot of focus on SummerSlam, which is good. We should have that. But it really does feel like Evolution Saturday Night's main event was this there to try to take over AEW's big weekend, which is, again, like, you know, two companies can coexist. They can compete with each other, absolutely. I feel like it's much better when two companies are competing with each other than, you know, working with each other, because then, you know, if there's no competition, then there's no drive by any means. But to take over the weekend, where it is starting to very become clear, like, hey, we don't even have to try because we're just trying to sabotage these guys, where, again, you only gave them 2 weeks for this build, and, you know, both Saturday Night's main event and Evolution just feel like an afterthought until they get back to their main focus, which is SummerSlam. And if that's the case, just don't do it. I mean, you would win the engagement anyway when it comes to SummerSlam. I don't know. I just wish we weren't in this situation, to be completely honest with you. Not just, you know, because, you know, I like AEW. You know, they have a good show. We don't cover it here on the channel just because, you know, I do need to breathe at some point with how much content that is rolling around. But, you know, yeah, I just really wish that we weren't doing this, or, you know, this was at another time, because, again, it really just feel like an afterthought, and it is becoming very apparent we're just doing it to sabotage them, as opposed to this is something that we really want to do. But those are my thoughts on this week's episode of SmackDown, and just the current build that we're in. I feel like once we get past Saturday Night's main event Evolution, I feel like the focus will be even much more apparent, because then all we have is SummerSlam, which would be, what, 3 or 4 weeks away after that. But yeah, let me know what you think about this episode of SmackDown down in the comment section. Leave a like if you made it this far within a review. I do greatly appreciate it. And of course, hit that subscribe button, as I am trying to grow into my YouTube career. And until next time, guys, I'll see you here at Lemon Studios.